Hello everybody, NGS here and welcome back to Undead Girl Murder Farce, episode 2. Episode 4 came out, I believe, today, so I'm a fair bit behind, but I feel intimidated by this series, you know? Every time I sit down to record something and the Murder Girl, Undead Girl Murder Farce pops into my mind for a moment that, oh, maybe I should record that. That thought is immediately replaced by, oh, but maybe you should record Nanatsu no Maken guy instead, or maybe Zom 100. You are behind on those series as well, right? And I sit down and record those series instead. I was trying to figure out why that is. Why is it that I'm so intimidated by this series, just like I was intimidated by Madoka Magica, for example, or earliest episodes of Symphogear, or what was the one with girls fighting in the basement of a school and singing and dancing and playing? Review Starlight. I was also intimidated by that one. And I think it has to do with the heaviness, quote unquote, of the show. Many other shows that I'm not intimidated by in the slightest, like Atelier Ryza, like Nanatsu no Maken ga, like from previous seasons, the Alchemist one, or plenty of isekais that I've been watching. I'm not really intimidated by those series because they are what it says on the tin, essentially. There might be some context hidden somewhere in the subtext or something like that. There might be some Easter eggs that you might notice when you're really careful about watching the show, but overall, it's very straightforward, right? Those shows are very straightforward. If they say we go to kill the Demon Lord, then we go to kill the Demon Lord. Maybe the Demon Lord actually turns out to be a good person. That's, a little bit of a plot twist. But, you don't need years of knowledge of classical Norwegian movies to understand certain scenes or lines said in the show. Meanwhile, this show, Undead Girl Murder Farce, very much revels in the subtext. It revels in references. I questioned the scene with the floating girl of Aya, just floating there and bleeding with a glowing aura behind it. Apparently it's a reference to some obscure painting from, I don't know, Renaissance or medieval times or something like that, and how am I supposed to know? How is anybody supposed to know about that? And I guess that intimidates me. Because, sure, that particular scene didn't really have much significance, it didn't carry much particular meaning. It's not like I will be completely lost in episode 7 because I didn't know that this scene was based on some obscure painting, right? It's absolutely not like that. But in general, I noticed that I like knowing. I really like knowing. And when 2/3 of the episode was just talking with, I'm assuming, referential and somehow meaningful animation being essentially the Subway Surfers of anime there, and me not getting anything, I guess I kind of feel uncomfortable about that. And I guess that's where my reluctance comes in. White mulberry. So, yeah, it's just something interesting to note, I guess. Another thing why I may feel reluctant watching this show is because I always watch my commentary. I watch the things I say very closely as I'm watching the show as well. And I notice times where I just say nothing and my mind immediately jumps into, should I say something? I've been silent for too long. Shit, I should say something. Mode. And in this show, there are times where there isn't really much to be said, at least judging by episode 1. I briefly skimmed through episode 1 before watching this one, and I noticed that 1/3 of that episode was introduction to Tsugaru and his situation, opening, and a few other moments also spent with Tsugaru, and then 2/3 of the entire episode was a brief fight with Shizuku, and then it was just talking. It was just talking heads with Subway Surfers footage overlaid on top to distract you from how, I'm sorry, but kind of boring talking in itself is. This time around it wasn't boring because, again, the Subway Surfers of animation, although that's unfair to the animation. The animation is actually great, but it serves the same purpose as Subway Surfers footage on TikTok, and I don't think you can disagree with that assessment, although, I mean, feel free to. What was I talking about? Right, it was just a lot of talking, and I didn't really have much to say there. I couldn't really say much, because they would reiterate the same thing 3 times, and I said my piece when they said it the first time, and then they repeat it, and repeat it, and repeat it, and my mind is, flaring up all sorts of alarms. I should say something, but I just can't. So I hope maybe episode 2 and further episodes will be a little better about it, although I don't have my hopes up. I think in general it is a very talking heavy show. I guess I should just work through that issue on my part. I should just be comfortable with a little bit of silence here and there. And I don't think there's any other way around it. I need to get comfortable with this show to a degree. Maybe I will drop it after episode 3, I don't know, but I don't think I will, because I think it's something worth watching, just maybe not entirely something up my alley. But we sometimes need to get out of our comfort zone, right? It can't just only be isekais and fantasy rom-coms, after all. So, that was a little bit of an intro, I guess. Is my camera too dark? Should I put on this light? I think I might have to. Okay. So, episode 1 first. What happened? We were introduced to Tsugaru, who's a half Oni, or something like 3/4 or 2/3 Oni, more Oni than human, and he works as an Oni slayer at a circus kind of place. And then he meets Aya Rindo, the the bodiless head, who offers him the ability to prolong his life, and in exchange he needs to help her. Initially it was about helping her die, but now it's about helping her take her body back. And that's basically it. Not much happened, really. Really not much has happened. What do I expect from this episode? We will probably start our journey to Europe, because that's where the body is, supposedly. Or maybe we will just time skip to when they are already in Europe. That's also entirely possible. And we will begin our search. And I can't really say anything more, because I don't really have any basis for any sort of theories, any sort of, trying to look into the future. Did I even note down any theories about this show in my little book? Zom 100, Nanatsu no Maken ga, Helck, Ryza no Atelier. No, I don't have any notes about this one. Interesting. Such a mysterious show, a mystery show, all in all, and I just couldn't think of any theories or of anything to note down. I guess maybe because it's such a slow burn, and episode 1 was essentially entirely an introduction to characters and a little bit of a germination of the plot, but the plot hasn't been fully unveiled, fully unfurled quite yet. Maybe I'm gonna have things to speculate on come episode 2 or episode 3. We'll see. We'll see. But right now, we will see this episode, and to do that, you will of course need your subs to follow along with me. I'm gonna need my sound to hear what's going on, and I'm gonna have to ask you guys for your support. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, linked down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, costs you nothing, helps a lot. And with that out of the way, we can start watching episode 2 of Undead Girl Murder Farce in 3, 2, 1, go. 1898 AD. Okay, so we are teleporting to France, I'm assuming. Oh, a vampire? Hunting animals because he doesn't want to drink human blood? A young vampire? Probably. Also, I guess maybe to feel a little bit normal. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, that's a very nice approach. Why do you want it? I guess it's not looked up anymore. Yeah, you should have smelted it. You should have smelted it down. Silver has a fairly low melting point, so you should have no issue doing that even over some campfire. Dead. I guess Hannah is dead then. And there's also Charlotte and Giselle. Dead. Someone is. The wife, I assume. Okay. Interesting. It seems like we're gonna be splitting our story a little bit. It's not only going to be following Aya and Suguru. Or maybe it's just a prologue to the episode, kinda sorta. And now, after the opening, Aya and Suguru will become involved and help the vampire family, or something along those lines. Or they are here to exterminate them. That's equally plausible. I really like this opening. In general, this season, as far as shows I'm watching are concerned, pretty much every single one of them has a dope opening in one way or another. Either super imaginative or a rare musical style or something like that. Also, if you see me glancing to the right every now and then, I have a list of characters placed on screen. I have a website, NGSCC. Seasons.ngs.cc is also available to everybody, and you can look up a show and the characters there. Right, there's the whole notion of like humans possibly gaining right. No, wait, monsters gaining rights is a subplot from Nanatsu no Maken ga Shihai Suru. But I guess it's a plot in here as well. Interesting. Child labor. Okay, so at least it's treated as murder. Doesn't it burn you? Yes! Very much so. Hiring a detective. Yes! We get our plot hook. Wait, am I watching like episode 3 or something? No, it's episode 2. I thought we might have skipped something, but... Okay, so episode 1 was literally just intro. I really liked Suguru. He reminds me of... True. There's a character he really reminds me of. Okay, so that's one hell of a time skip. That slightly like tired older voice that's very, straining from his throat. It really reminds me of some other characters, and not just, the voice actor himself, but rather the trope of this kind of a character. Not a trope, but, the kind of a character. Okay. That's not how it works. Tsugaru, not Tsuguru. Is the cage CG? How'd you know that? Yeah. Okay. Give him his fucking 3 francs. Don't be stingy. Okay. Yeah, that's CG, alright. Okay. Arigate. Is that some sort of an accent? This is the headliner. Nope. That's just a maid. She lacks everything below her neck. It was. uh, she only carries Aya's luggage. Exactly. Okay, Shizuku does whatever Aya says. She's just a maid. With a rifle. Yeah, you didn't think it would? Tsugaru. Not Tsuguru. Tsugaru. That's a reaction image, alright. And that's a very Windows Movie Maker transition effect. She's immortal. Exactly. How to not die? Well, just stay alive. If you can't, well, skill issue. It was someone from the inside! Watch it be Claude or Raoul or this butler or someone. Watch it be Alfred. Watch it be Alfred. True. Might as well train with the real deal. Yeah. Or it was someone who she knew. Not pierced. So no signs of struggle. Fingerprints. Okay, so it works by proximity, not just by direct touch. So Alfred was the only one who could actually touch it. It's Alfred. The motive? Okay, so he's even counting for her. Right, so also superhuman strength. Either Alfred or one of the vampires. What about the seventh one? Pull out your... Yeah. Amazing first impression. I love Tsugaru. Wait, that's it? That's the episode? Really? Holy shit. Really? That didn't feel like 20-something minutes. I thought we're like halfway through. I legit thought we're just halfway through. Okay. 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 I might not have gotten a particularly favorable impression after episode 1, but this one alleviated my concerns. I really did enjoy this one. I really, honestly, fully did enjoy this one. Okay. 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 Spoilers or after credits? After credits, I think. The hunter is back, apparently. The hunter is back, and so is this episode, because we're gonna watch it again, as usual. Vampires, it's interesting to see that, well, interesting. Vampires who drink only animal blood, vegetarian quote-unquote vampires. Mushrooms. Why is this kid so interested in mushrooms? You know, now I'm like thinking of all possibilities. And one of the possibility I see is this kid potentially being the murderer. And let me explain why. Meeting humans halfway, yep. Yeah, meeting humans halfway. We need to drink blood, and that's the monstrous part, but at least we hunt like humans with rifles. So it's meeting halfway, halfway in the middle. Makes perfect sense. Count Dracula is apparently dead. We're going to have to get along with humanity from now on, whether we like it or not. Very imposing way to say it, and that little tremble in this kid's eye makes him one of the suspects in my eyes. Kid really doesn't like to get along with humanity. He really doesn't like that. So, how to convince his father that you cannot get along with humanity? Well, kill his wife and pit it onto the humans. Humans did it, father. Let's slaughter them all. Essentially. But we're not talking about any random human. We're not talking about a servant or a butler or whatever. We are talking about this this boy's mother. So that speaks against this accusation. Let me real quick. That's Zone 100. So let's start it halfway through as well. Undead Girl Murder Farce. What's this son's name? Is that Raul? I think it's Raul. Let me scroll through real quick. Is his name mentioned anywhere? Raul. Raul is the murderer, or Alfred. One of those two has to hold true, in my eyes at least. Mushrooms, yeah. Hunter attacked us just the other day. Dracula is dead, and we need to live well with humanity. Could you get that silver out of our storage room while you're at it? Why keep something so dangerous? That's a very good question. Sure, we wouldn't want to let it fall into another hunter's hands, but it's not like the supply of silver is limited, right? You can just make more silver stakes. It's not really that big of an issue. So a much better idea would be to just grab it with some tongs. I'm assuming there is some, sure, harmful aura, but if you use tongs and the stake is far away, you can just carry it, or have Alfred carry it, throw it into the furnace, and just smelt it down, and pour the slag into a hole in the floor or something where it's gonna stay, and no one's gonna, it's not gonna bother anybody. Or maybe hole in the wall is not, hole in the floor is not the best idea, but like dig a hole in the backyard, pour the silver in there and cover it with earth again. You're not gonna be bothered by it because it's gonna be far enough from you for the aura to not harm you, and it's gonna be safe and secure. No one's gonna be able to use it to harm you. So not the best way to go about it, but if they were smarter about it, we wouldn't have the episode, so of course. I made sure it's locked up. It's not. It's not. The lock was snapped. It wasn't cut. It was someone just grabbed it and tore it apart. It's bent. There's a tear in the shackle of this lock. Superhuman strength, which puts my suspicions back on Raul. Vampires have superhuman strength after all. Alfred, I don't think he would be able to do that. No, sorry. I really don't think a regular human would be able to do that. And here's the steak, sizzling with blood. Claude from Elemental. Charlotte and the maid. I don't think it was any one of them. It was either Raoul or Alfred or the other son whose name eludes me. Although what reason would he have? Also, let's look at their at the faces they're making. The older son is clearly concerned. Alfred, hard to tell because of the mustache, but looks slightly concerned as well. Meanwhile, Raoul has a very stone face, poker face. It's like he knows what's there. There's no anxiety about what will they find behind the closed doors. She was sleeping peacefully, not waking up despite her heightened senses, because she sensed that the person walking up to her is a friend. I'm assuming, because of their heightened senses, she can discern who is it walking behind her. That again puts my suspicions on Raoul. OP. Lady wife of Lord Godard murdered. Was this the work of a vampire hunter? Meurtre? No, I'm not going to try to read it in French. Absolutely not. The first murder among the human allies. This is a warning. Okay, sure, maybe. Who hate the thought of monsters getting rights. Where do we put the border when it comes to monsters? I think I very much subscribe to Geralt's worldview from The Witcher. If the monster is sapient, if you can have a conversation with it, and if they do no harm, why harm them back? They're essentially humans, except they have fangs or wings or whatever, so might as well live and let live. It's only the feral monsters and the humanoid monsters that can be reasoned with, but who are aggressive, who are, against humanity, that deserve to be eliminated. But it's not really any different from humans being a threat to fellow humans. We also eliminate them from society. So treat humans like you would treat monsters like you would humans, essentially. Signed a written oath that he wouldn't drink human blood. Yep. And of course the news are here. The investigation was swept under the rug because of course it was. Doesn't being at church hurt them? And this kid is just watching the scene unfold, and his reaction is none. I strongly suspect Raoul. I strongly suspect Raoul. And yeah, of course it's discrimination. The carriage is CG as well. Aya Rindo and Tsugaru Shunichi. Shunichi. This is also CG, but the darkness hides it, of course. I really enjoyed Tsugaru's personality. I can't recall who he reminds me of, but he reminds me of actually multiple different characters from multiple different shows. His personality, his voice, his, strained yare almost. The teacher from Kill la Kill. Yes, the teacher from Kill la Kill. Do they share the voice actor? I wonder. Takayashiro. I think they might actually share the voice actor, but it's gonna take me a while to scroll through all those roles on AniList. I guess I'm gonna have to write some piece of my website that filters characters and deduplicates them by shows, so that there aren't multiples of a character listed. Who else did he voice? No, he didn't actually voice the teacher from Kill la Kill. Interesting. I could have sworn. But I guess it's the same, archetype of a character, the same archetype of a voice to him. Yeah, that's definitely who he reminds me of, and of course, plenty of other characters as well. I really, really, really like him. You could slowly hear it, of course. He's sleazy. He's very witty. He's too witty for his own good, but he can back up that wit with being able to, outwit his way out of any situation. And if that fails, he's able to outfight his way out of any situation. So, yeah. Yeah. I really, really like him. And this is interesting. They proved one of the merfolk innocent of murder in Norway, solved a case dealing with a golem in Belgium. So there has been a huge time skip, is what I'm getting here. Because seeing how this case takes one episode so far, and I'm assuming there's gonna be at least one more episode to this case, we are missing 4-5 episodes. Basically, it's a 4 to 5 episode time skip. Interesting. And I guess I kinda like that, because it allows us to jump straight into the meat of the series. We completely skip the part where they arrive to Europe, where they try to establish themselves, getting their first cases, slowly building up the reputation. No, they are already reputable. They're already established as a pair of detectives handling monster cases, and they are already being hired for very prolific ones. It's cool. We skip the bullshit and we get straight into the meat of it. This episode in general very much contrasts with episode 1 in my eyes. Episode 1 was mostly a bunch of nothing. I'm sorry, but it kinda was. It was repeating the same thing 3 times, and that took like 3/4, maybe 2/3 of the episode. This one, there's a lot of talking, sure, but notice, later on it's visible, how they don't need to resort to Subway Surfers footage on the bottom half of the screen to keep your attention, because they actually talk on the topic, right? There's a murder case, and we're trying to figure out what's what. We're trying to figure out any leads, any proofs, any stuff like that. So they're actually talking about something that matters, something meaningful. And there are also actions taken during that talk, instead of just walking through the village, repeating the same point 3 times. This episode is a huge improvement. I'm not a huge fan of the cage being 3D, and I honestly can't say why even is it CG. It's not like it's particularly hard to draw. It's not like they're doing particularly much animation with it, right? It's not like Tsugaru is wildly swinging it around or whatever. It's most of the time it's just a static asset. So I don't get why it's CG. Trying to weasel his way out of a fur, of course. Sleazy bastard. Like, why does the cage need to be CG in this shot? I know, it doesn't need to be. The only effect of the cage being CG is it looks kind of bad. It's not the worst CG I've seen by any stretch, but it's not the greatest either, so why do that? Trying to return the carriage, of course. Like, take us back, then, we went 30 miles this way, we're going to go back, so minus 30 miles, we went 0 miles, so we don't pay anything. Not how it works, I'm afraid. He's been sober for a week after his wife yelled at him about his drinking. I could tell from your clothes. How? I wonder if it's expanded upon in the source material. How exactly was she able to tell from his clothes? Maybe it's a freshly mended tear in his coat or something, and stereotypically men wouldn't be able to do that or wouldn't bother to do that, so it had to have been his wife. And his nose is red, so he's probably a drunkard, but he's sober right now, so he probably sobered up, and his wife patched his coat, so they must be on good terms. Something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. I hope it actually was explained somehow, at least a little bit in the source material, because explanation that actually works is like a core. Is that animated on once? It is. Of course it is. It's not CG if it's not animated on once. Core of a good not just mystery, but core of a good detective story, right? Doing the deduction is that it actually makes sense, you know? That's how you can tell whether it's a detective story written by written for smart people or written for stupid people. Now, no offense to anybody, but that's kind of the distinction I make. If it's actually written for smart people, those smart people are able to take those clues presented in the story, and they are able to come to their own conclusions, often coinciding with the conclusion that the detective from the story had. That's how you see it's written smartly, right? That is smart, and also that the smart character is written like a smart character, because they're able to tell all the clues and figure them out and come to a conclusion. And then you have shows and stories like Sherlock. I'm talking about the TV series with the weird-faced Doctor Strange actor. That's for the most part, that was a detective story written for stupid people, and a smart character written in a way that stupid people think smart characters are. Essentially, many of the cases in Sherlock were solved by Sherlock being able to spot a reflection in a cup that was standing in the next house over, and he saw in that reflection that the murderer entered the house, and then Sherlock revealed himself, and the murderer stabbed him, and then it was revealed that it wasn't Sherlock, it was a mannequin that he switched to at the last moment, because he knew that the murderer has a knife, because he saw that the pebbles in the front yard were slightly more moved on the right side, and that means the murderer had something heavy in his right pocket. So he prepared that mannequin and switched, and then it is revealed that the mannequin has actually the murderer inside, and the murderer was stabbed, and the murderer is actually Sherlock dressed up as the murderer, because he saw that someone else is suspecting Sherlock of being a murderer by the flight path of the cranes in the sky. And you know, it makes absolutely no sense, but we are supposed to think that he's smart because he figured all of that, despite it being bullshit. It's a detective story written by people who fall for it, who are at the edge of their seat, and wow, how did he see those cranes? You know, and it's the portrayal of a smart person for people who don't really know what a smart person is, because they aren't one. Again, no offense to anybody, although I probably offended so many people right now. Thank fuck I don't use Twitter, because I'd be cancelled already. But this is a smart story for smart people with smart characters. So far, it seems to me. And coming back to the being able to tell about the wife by the clothes, explanation to that would mean it's actually a smart story with smart characters for smart people. If there's no explanation, or if the explanation is complete and utter bullshit, that would mean it's Sherlock tier. And I don't suspect it's Sherlock tier, because so far we've been getting plenty of clues that actually make sense. and that we, the viewer, can actually try to deduce the truth from. End rant. And he gets room and pay and everything. Cage user who came all the way from Japan. Claude is the eldest and Raoul is the second son. I'm a mere apprentice. Different reactions. And everybody trying to figure out who is actually Aya Rindo. This is a great bit. And I'm really glad that Aya also appreciates the joke. And they laugh at it together. I love it. Way too often in anime do you get characters who have some silly little joke made at their expense, and they're instantly turned into a modern tsundere and start smacking heads and whatnot. Right? It's pretty much the norm in anime. Someone jokes about the girl's chest, well, you can expect to be smacked to the next dimension by that girl because, oh no, I'm not flat, or, shit like that. I love it. There is still the Shizuku struck Tsugaru for me later, but she actually finds it funny. And I love it. And they can both laugh at the joke. They can both have a little bit of, innocent banter, and both can appreciate it. I love it. I love their relationship. I love Tsugaru. I love Aya so far. Great characters. Great characters. And of course she dropped it. You can carry your own luggage. She doesn't much like Tsugaru, does she? Aya Rindo is in the cage. Nachrichten, probably not how you pronounce it. Des Tages, Detektiv aus dem Orient Namenes, der Kaffeegnitzer liest den Fall des künstlichen Menschen. I think you can actually read it somewhat and maybe translate it. I wonder if there's a translation of those newspapers. I'm gonna have to look it up on Reddit. And here's the true Aya Rindo. This outline, this red outline, you know how you sometimes download a fake PNG from the internet? It says it's a PNG with transparency, but it's really just a character on a green or blue or whatever background, and you try to select all the blue or green or whatever and delete it, and there's that jagged outline around the object you were trying to extract. That's it. Someone made those characters on red background and they wanted to chroma key it, but chroma keying just didn't really work all that well. And what's this effect? Just pixel fade. I'm so used to imaginative, maybe not even imaginative, but very cartoon anime-like transitions in shows like that, right? Maybe it's just a blink to next scene. Maybe it's a bit of a wipe. Maybe it's splotch fade kind of sort of deal. Maybe it's a wave of blood washing over the screen and stuff like that. But I've never seen just a movie maker, PowerPoint, whatever transition used in a show. This is a first. And it's so fucking funny. It's just so fucking funny. How are you still alive? I'm not dead, therefore I'm alive. Simple. Simple, really. You want to not be dead? Just be alive. Duh. If you can't, skill issue. And Tsugaru is having the time of his life. I wouldn't be able to stop myself from laughing either. I love Tsugaru. I fucking love him. And I love how subservient he is to Aya, but you still get the feeling that he's only ironically subservient to her. Like, oh, yes, master, let me put you up real quick. Of course, master, with shit-eating grin on his face. I love him as a character. I absolutely adore him. My top one this season, honestly. Yeah, and now we get to the investigation. We are a family of 4. 2 sons, Claude and Raoul, and a daughter, Charlotte. Couldn't have been Charlotte, had to have been Claude or Raoul, and my suspicion goes to Raoul. And 2 human servants, Giselle and Alfred. I heard the slain Madame Hannah was previously human. I wonder, does it have any relevance? I'm not sure. Renovating antiques. Yep. Real swords. I wonder how that might be relevant, if at all. No point using fake swords. Exactly. Vampire's body decays at an accelerated rate, of course. And we have a picture. Chest just under 10 centimeters, so a stake. Wait, 10 centimeters is a lot. That's not a 10 centimeter hole. 10 millimeter maybe. Where do I have a... Yeah, I have... That is 10 centimeters. Like, that's 10 centimeters. That's not the diameter of the hole. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But the stake didn't look 10 centimeters in diameter. Maybe as the stake goes in, it burns away at the flesh, and the resulting wound is bigger because of that. Indeed, caused by a stake. She bled less from the left side of the wound than from the right. I really like that Tsugaru also has some input. I really like that. I was afraid that he's gonna be relegated to just being a support character, to just being a kind of sort of funny man of the show, and maybe muscle when it comes to fighting. He, alongside Shizuku, would do the fighting and essentially Aya's bodyguard, but no, he actually has his input. Maybe the body was leaning and he shows how it could have been leaning. I really like it. There's no sign of struggle, indeed, which is kind of weird because you'd think that being stabbed in the chest would, you know, cause at least briefly some grimace of pain on her face. You know? Unless the death from a stake is actually instantaneous. Your pain receptors don't even have the time to fire and you're already dead. Unless that's the case, it's really weird that she has so peaceful, such a peaceful expression. The murderer pierced her heart with the stake in a single strike. Again, another thing pointing at inhuman strength. killed in this spot, not a scratch on the chair either, so the stake didn't go through the body. What does that tell us, though? Either that the murderer was very controlled, he could really control the strike to not strike deeper than need be, but then why would he? Why would he care about not damaging the chair? I don't know. I guess you could argue that it again points at a family member because they didn't want to damage their possessions. That's why they withheld their strike. Or it points towards the stake not being fully used, right? Someone had to grip it and only a part of the stake was able to get in, as opposed to, I don't know, striking and then striking the stake with a hammer for good measure. Like I assume vampire hunters might want to do, just to make sure it's fully driven in. Someone just did a quick stab and ran away. Maybe. It would have to be the work of a hunter who could erase their presence, or someone with whose presence she was already familiar with. And thus she didn't react because, oh, it's just Raoul, let's continue sleeping, it's not a big deal, he just, I don't know, wants to maybe bring me some tea or something, I don't know. You know, again, something points towards a family member. Not necessarily Raoul, could have been Alfred or whoever else, whoever that she's familiar with. Or it could point towards an inhuman vampire hunter, a werewolf of some sort, or any other kind of a monster who also has superhuman strength and is able to conceal their presence. Usually it's just vampires who have the ability to like disappear in the mist and whatnot, but it could have been something else. Holy water was also apparently spilled on the murder scene. I wonder why. Hands and feet were unharmed. Vampire cells lose their power sometime after death. So if she was splashed a little bit with the holy water would have been spilled very quickly after her death, so that her cells still have the time to regenerate the burns. Yeah. A coat of some sort, a bottle, dusty glass, and some dust is still stuck to the bottle. I wonder if there's fingerprints. Maybe. A little bit of blood on the neck. So the murderer might have touched it after the murder. Makes sense, because he spilled holy water after the murder was already done. A stake was taken from a hunter. And it works by proximity. So just having, just wearing a glove or just putting some cloth around the stake wouldn't be enough to protect yourself. You would need to use some tongs or something, or you would have to not be a vampire. Which kinda means that it probably wasn't Raoul, because Raoul is a vampire. So him having to pick up that stake and then carrying it and then stabbing it, it would burn his hand and burn it good. And you can't really stab with enough force when you're holding it in with tongs or whatever, so probably not what happened either. And healing burns takes about a week. And so Alfred had to take it. Let me go back to when we see Raoul. Hiding his hand in the pocket. Hiding his hand. I was trying to see if he's maybe wearing gloves or something. There doesn't seem to be any sort of a burn on his hand though. And yet he hides it in his pocket. I wonder if it's just an animation error that there isn't any burn on his hand, or it's just a bit of a misdirection. Only Alfred and him had the key, so it had to have been Alfred. Murderer came from outside this mansion. But there are problems. Yep, 7 problems if he actually came from outside. Everything so far is very interesting. Everything so far points at either Raoul or Alfred, but there are certain things that either absolve Raoul because he couldn't have touched the stake, or absolve Alfred because he couldn't have tore the padlock open, and besides that he had a key, so why would he do that anyway? So I really love Aya and Tsugaru's relationship. Why was there no sign of Hana waking up? Yeah, because she didn't think it was worth waking up. I'm assuming she was familiar with whoever it was who approached her. Why did the murderer specifically infiltrate at night? Vampires are weaker during the day. The mansion is closed tightly during the day, sure. But yeah, they were able to twist open the lock without an issue, so they could have, like, you know, ripped the door open as well. So perhaps it was, again, someone from the inside of the mansion. Another thing that points towards an inside job. Why did it leave the holy water bottle? That's a very good question, actually. That's a very good question. And that would again point at Raoul. He picked up the water bottle, spilled it, and then put it back because, fuck, it starts burning. Right? And he couldn't pick it up again because the bottle was already wet with holy water. So it would burn him again. So he just, you know, dropped it and left it there. And they use the coat to avoid any blood splattering onto them, and perhaps also to avoid holy water splattering onto them. And also, why would they leave the coat? That's another question. Wouldn't a murderer take their appliances with them? Wouldn't they want to get rid of any evidence? Or at least the most evidence they can get rid of? How did the murderer know about the stake? Of course, only the inhabitants of this mansion would know about where it is, after all. And the location of Hannah's room. Of course, it had to have been someone on the inside. Why did the murderer remove the silver stake? That's something that speaks against Raoul's fault. Because if silver burns him, then he wouldn't have, suffered the burning on his way back. Why would he do that? Right? He would probably leave it. If he left a holy water bottle because it burned him, if we assume that, he would have also left the stake because it would burn him. But he took the stake back, didn't dispose of it. That's another thing. None of the tools used in this murder were disposed of. The coat wasn't disposed of. It's left as evidence. The bottle wasn't disposed of. The steak wasn't disposed of. Sixth problem. I love Tsugaru. I love Tsugaru. I love the relationship. I love this clown. That doesn't look like a 7. Yeah, you haven't even said anything about the 6th. We'll leave that for later. Here comes the kid. She looks so done with Tsugaru's bullshit. He's jumping again. He's doing stupid shit again. Oh, did you really have to do that, Tsugaru? I love them. I love them. And that's the end. And that's the end of the episode. And then we get a brief glance at the vampire hunter with a crossbow. Dun dun dun. And that's it. Oh man. Oh man, man, oh man. Man, oh man. I really, really, really like how many clues they're giving us. How they lead us through all those clues. Very often. Maybe not very often, but often enough for it to be noticeable. Whenever there's some murder mystery kind of situation or some other detective mystery kind of a situation in a show, very often you have the character, the detective, pick something up from the floor and then be like, it's not shown, it's somewhere off screen. Then they're like, oh, and it shows their surprised face and we don't know what it is. But it's something that led the main character to believe that someone did the crime and not someone else, or, you know, something. And then there's a big reveal that, aha, I found the murder weapon and it had claw marks on it, and the only person with claws among us is Aoi. It had to have been Aoi. Or, you know, something like that. Some obvious clue that if it was shown on the screen, the viewers would instantly know who did it. Just like the main character. And I feel it's kind of a cheating. It's introducing not mystery, but not knowing. It's something I mentioned... when did I mention that? I think during the course of... one of the shows I'm watching. Could it have been Nanatsu no Maken ga Shihai Suru? No, I think it was some other show. Let's see. Helck. Yeah, it was during Helck that I mentioned the difference between not knowing and mystery. Not knowing is when characters in show know perfectly well what's going on. They know everything. But we, the viewer, we don't. Because those characters don't speak anything. They're just like, oh? And they know, but we don't. It's cheap, in my eyes. It's not true mystery. It's just not knowing. Mystery is when we are shown the exact same things that the characters in the show are. We hear the exact same things. We see the exact same things. And we don't know still what's going on. The characters might know. The characters might not know, just like us. But we were given all the same tools and all the same items and all the same moments and events that the characters in the show, and we still don't know. That's mystery. This show does mystery. We are shown fully and entirely all the clues, all the items, all the events are said there in front of us. None of it is hidden somewhere in secret. There is no, the main character, the character, the count or whatever says something and there's no sound because what he said is mysterious. We're not supposed to hear it, and that brings Aya to a conclusion that we don't know because it was fucking silent for some reason, or it was obscured by a gust of wind or something, like they often do. And if we were to hear the same thing, we would know as well. They're not doing that. Nothing is done off screen. Nothing is picked up off screen. Nothing is said off screen, and nothing is said and left mute. This is a mystery. This is how you do mystery. I have actual basis to speculate. I see the same exact evidence, and I can speculate. I'm not given an incomplete image. I don't feel cheated out of the mystery. I am there in the story with those characters. I'm experiencing the same things. I'm another head in a cage trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And maybe I will. And I will feel good about myself because I was able to come to the correct conclusion. And maybe I won't. And that's also going to be fine because I had all the tools and evidence necessary to make that conclusion, but I just didn't see that. And that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. It's kind of like how Dark Souls and Souls-like games, most of them at least, do difficulty. Most of the time, you're not angry at the game because, oh, that was bullshit, what happened, my input didn't work, or I didn't know that that boss stops me from using items, or stuff like that. Most of the time you think, fuck, if I dodged a little earlier, I would have been able to do that. Shit, again. Let me try again, and let me try to do better. The game gives you all tools necessary to succeed. And if you do succeed, you feel good about yourself because you utilize the tools well. If you don't succeed, you didn't succeed because you didn't utilize the tools and the items well. Not because of some bullshit, not because of a cutscene death, not because of boulders suddenly falling from the sky without any whatchamacallit, when there are red rings on the floor showing where the strike will happen. Fuck, I forgot the term. Without any... whatever, you know what I mean. Right? You didn't die in Dark Souls because of some game's bullshit. You died in Dark Souls, and you know why. The same case is here, at least I'm assuming, unless episode 2 pulls some bullshit, which it very well might. So far, it seems like if I come to a bad conclusion, I can figure out why I came to a bad conclusion. I can figure out that, she actually paid attention to the picture in the background being a little askew, and I didn't see that. I didn't pay attention to that. But yeah, now it all makes sense. Now it makes sense that the picture being askew on the wall, yeah, it actually checks out. That's how you do mystery. You give the viewer all the tools and the items and evidence necessary to solve the mystery by their own. If they do, great. If they don't, also great. I think that's about it. I fucking love the characters. Something that also bears mention. I fucking love Tsugaru. I really, really do love him. I love his antics. I love him as a character. I love their chemistry with Aya. It's great. It's a joy to watch. It's honestly a joy to watch. I'm glad I didn't drop it after the first episode. I'm glad I gave it a chance and gave it another episode. And now I regret. Now I regret being so... how did I put it at the beginning of this video? Being so intimidated by this show. Because if I didn't, if I knew that this is the direction it's going, that it's not going to be just heavy dialogue, Zetsubo Sensei style with Subway Surfers in the background, but it's actually going to have some substance, some meat to bite into, I wouldn't have pulled it to the side. I would have watched it as it comes out, and I would have made up my lateness already. Now I'm going to. Now that I know how good of a show it is, I'm not gonna have the time to do that now, admittedly, but tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, yeah, this is the show. This is the show of the season. One of the shows of this season. We have so many good shows this season. This is good. Zom 100 is good. Atelier Ryza is good in its own way. Nanatsu no Maken guy is also decent. It has some issues, but they mostly have to do with adaptation woes. Helck is really good. I thought this season is just going to be a bunch of nothing, honestly, but it seems packed in quality. There might not be much quantity, because most of the shows this season are sequels, or mostly sequels and OVAs and movies and whatnot, but it's packed with quality. This season really held some nice surprises for me. Okay, I think now I'm done. I think now that's gonna be it. I'm gonna be waiting with I'm not gonna have to wait. I have episode 3 already downloaded. I can watch it whenever I want. But I'm waiting with bated breath for the moment when I actually do and when I actually watch episode 3, because holy shit, this series is good. It's actually genuinely good. Okay. I guess that's gonna be it. Again, third time, that's gonna be it. But maybe you guys, maybe you have something more to add. If so, say so in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode, my reaction, my theory, stuff like that? No spoilers, please, I beg of you. Spoilers for a mystery show is the worst thing you can do. Spoil me isekais if you want, I'm not gonna care, because it's just garbage isekai of the season, so who cares? But please don't spoil it to me. It's too good to be spoiled. If you do want to talk spoilers though, you can on my Discord, linked up here, also in the description below. There's a channel for this show where you can use spoiler tags and talk spoilers to your heart's content if you wish so. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only Undead Girl Murder Farce, but also Helck, Atelier Ryza, Nanatsu no Maken ga Shihai Suru, Zom 100, and others that will be coming at ya in the near future. I also stream sometimes. This weekend I'm going to be streaming some gunpla building, but I also stream some gacha games every now and then, so you might want to click the bell icon to be notified of whenever I go live. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, for example, linked down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows like Symphogear, Madoka Magica and others, and for just a single $1 a month you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. And if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, share my content, spread the word, costs you nothing, helps a lot. And with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's the list of my wonderful Patreons: QB Without a Net, Fruit, Zay, Rainer, Aquaman, Yuki, Ally, Fassel, Dr. Watt, Marsh, and Hans Peter. And you can join their ranks without the need to solve any mysteries.